Hey there. I'm Brianna Bowling, and I'm the founder of Retreat and Learn. And today we're going to be discussing Ashes to Art. It's a workshop that Lori Joseph puts on. But before we get started, I do want to ask for your help. Um, I like to bring all these neat topics to you, but I need your help. I need your help getting the word out. There's a little subscribe button if you're watching it on YouTube. Go ahead and click on it now. Share it with your friends. If you're watching it on Facebook, definitely subscribe and watch and follow our channel so that we can bring these to you in other days. So I definitely need your help on that. You can also go to retreatandlearn.com, and on there you'll be able to find out some of our live in-person events. So today I am very happy to bring you Lori Joseph. Lori is the creator of Ashes to Art Workshop, and she's also the author of My Embrace. Her warmth and her love for people. I mean, I've met her in person and she is just fabulous. This has what has helped her find purpose after her adversity in her life. And so I'm very excited to share that with our viewers today. So with that said, hello, Lori.
Hello.
I'm so glad you're here. So I think we're just going to start with, I talked about your Ashes to Art and how that came to be in the workshop, but can you tell us a little bit about the fundraiser part of it, the part that actually started the whole idea of Ashes to Art? Because our viewers probably don't know anything about that.
The fundraising aspect, thank you for having me, by the way. It's good to be here. The fundraising aspect of the Ashes to Art, I looked to Bidding for Good, which is an outside organization. Not only had I never run a national campaign, but I didn't know how to handle the funds when we were going to do an online auction. And that's what we did. We had over 50 pieces of artwork, and we created this online auction to appeal. Since our artists were from across the country, it seemed we sent out invitations and gave them invitations so that they could invite friends to come online and be part of the auction and bid on it. So we used Bidding for Good. It was a nonprofit auction site, and they were able to collaborate with the Poudre Canyon Fire Department and have all of the proceeds and any monies go directly from Bidding for Good to the fire department. So I had nothing to do with the funds. It was a huge relief for me to have somebody else handle that aspect of it.
Okay, so that was the actual fundraising portion of it. What actually made you want to even be involved in this? I mean, you're not a firefighter. You're an artist, but you weren't the artist that created all that art. Were you even living near in Colorado at the time? I mean, like, what prompted you to even be involved in the first place?
I was working at a studio in Fort Collins, and the fires were nearby. So when I left the studio in the afternoon, there was smoke in the sky. It was filled. And what I remember driving back to Nebraska, I had been there the week and learned about the locals and how much they were taxed with the burden of trying to move their livestock and help their families. And some of the homes were burning, and some of the firefighters, they lost their homes. They were fighting the front lines. And just when you hear that news, it was heartfelt and it resonated with me. So when I was driving home to Nebraska, I saw that smoke in my rearview mirror, and it just really resonated with me. Like, I'm leaving this situation, but it's with me. So the next morning I went out for a walk and was thinking about it, and I thought, how could I give back? My husband had lost his job, so we weren't in a financial situation where I could just readily go to the bank and give a check. So I thought, well, what if I had something that was a lasting impression, something that meant something to the people of Colorado? And that's where I came up with the idea of using charcoal from the wildfires and having the artist create with it. And I threw the idea out to the photographer I was working with and some of my family and friends and said, what do you think of this idea? And everybody just jumped on it they thought it was a great idea. They can basically, it was like, yeah, go for it. So we got permission through the Bureau of Land Management and collected the charcoal and made it happen.
So then all these artists, if I remember the story, so they created all this art and then they sent it to you or sent it to the fire department, and then an online auction occurred, and that's how the funds were all raised, right? Is that kind of the process?
I sent charcoal out to all of the artists. When I did, they had a special invitation, and in their invitation, I included, where's my camera?
I know it's so hard. You have to go.
Fireballs, the atomic fireballs. I had to keep a little humor in it while I was doing it. So, and this happens to be one of the pieces that was created by an artist, Eric Newman, and it was there's where the charcoal was incorporated into the raku pottery that he learned how to do. I'm sorry, I'm bad with this camera.
Yeah, everyone is. It's
So, and then there's the lid. And there I keep my fireballs as a memory.
A full circle, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. So then eventually you started coming up with, kind of evolved into something you call the Ashes to Art Workshop. And so what is that and how did that come to be?
We went on let's see, a woman at Northern Colorado University had heard about the Ashes to Art program. And so she contacted me, and they were giving workshops for teachers and so for a summer program. So she called and asked me if I would create a workshop and participate in it with other people with other workshops. It was called Mapping New Terrain. So I said, sure, I'd love to. So, and then I hung up the phone. I was like, oh my gosh, I've never taught teachers before. What am I going to do? I've volunteered in classrooms for kids, but never for teachers. So it was really fun putting it together. And so I was looking and trying to get inspiration, and I was looking around my room and my office, and I turned around and I saw the big black bear that's over my shoulder.
That way, the other way, the other way.
Everything's reversed.
Yeah.
So I looked online, and Northern Colorado's mascot was the black bear, which means strength, wisdom, and courage with Native Americans and also for the university. So the black bear was my sign. He brings opportunity. So I used the black bear to represent opportunity. So my opportunity was to present a workshop with the university based on the Ashes to Art.
Okay. And so what happens during this workshop? Like, what do people do during the workshop?
We go over sensory exploration. We talk a little bit about the size of the fires and how much land it encompasses, and I try to make it relevant to wherever the community is that I'm living in, wherever I'm presenting the workshop, so that people get a visual idea, a visual handle on just how massive the fire was. And then we do a sensory exploration through a campfire, because most people have sat around a campfire, and the memories that evokes, and the senses that come to mind, the food, the taste, the touch, sight, sounds, what happens with a fire. From there, we go into talking about the artist. We do some role playing. They assume the identity of the artist that created for Ashes to Art. And I provide them with let me see here, I think I have a couple. I provide them with a couple of copies, like this is Rich Mills, was one of our artists. And on the back, I give them the information of the artist and where they came from, and give them a little bit of history on it. So they have a chance to look at that. I have a dress-up box to keep it playful, so they can put on fun hats, vests, just adults playing dress up. I'm giving them the opportunity to kind of have fun with it and assume this personality. And they try to pitch their artwork to us for a sale. And it's fun because they have to do it in front of their peers, and some are comfortable and some are not.
Right.
And so that's also a growing opportunity, a lesson in that too. But once they do that, then we have a hands-on creative time with actual charcoal. So from a wildfire. So I still have some from Colorado, but eventually my stock will wear out, and but they have new fires now, so maybe I'll get more Colorado wildfire charcoal.
Right. Now, we had talked about, the topic of this was, finding joy after adversity. And so the people who came to the workshop, I'm assuming they had some type of adversity. They hadn't experienced a wildfire. So what type of adversity, you don't have to talk about the particular people there, but what type of adversity have people faced that have gone to the workshop that has helped them? And how have you seen them evolve during that workshop?
So some people, health issues, cancer, things like that, where they feel less. Some of it's just peer pressure, and they're not comfortable necessarily in big groups. So this gives them an opportunity to explore a smaller group, a smaller setting, and maybe boost their self-confidence. Some of them have been artists that stopped creating in their past for whatever reason. Maybe they weren't making enough money or didn't feel that they were, it's an emotional thing. I've had past firefighters create with the charcoal. It means something different to everyone. I actually, one of the firefighters couldn't buy a piece of artwork because she actually had seen one of the raccoons a raccoon perish in the fire. And there was a piece of artwork that was a raccoon. So she couldn't bring herself to buying that piece of art. But there's a healing process. I've had some people that were just walked away from art, and some people are writing about it. So the writing gives them the opportunity to express themselves a little bit and maybe go to places that they've kind of forgotten about. And I think the playfulness of the workshop gives people a chance and permission to play, because we take ourselves so serious as we grow up, and sometimes we forget that it's important that we still give ourselves recess so that we still go out and play. And I really just hope that people enjoy it for what it is and take what they can from it.
So there's a little bit of playfulness, and it sounds like everybody who comes there maybe comes there for a different reason. It could be that they've had loss, because of their health, or a loss of a family member. It could be that they've experienced some trauma from fighting a fire. Or it literally can be any type of adversity in their life. Is that true?
It's true, but it's not limited to adversity. I think what happens is mainly my response to the adversity was to try to bring some positive to it. So my goal is to help people who lead ordinary lives like myself, is to be able to go and look at the situation. Maybe there's something bad happening, and how can you help? So it's really to help them engage those 3 levels of empathy that we're all meant to have. The one where you relate, the first one, and then second level is where you relate because you have a similar situation. And the third one's your call to action. And that's the one that I'm hoping that will resonate most with people, is when they see something, when they feel that gut or get that voice and they know that they need to respond. That's where I really want them to feel secure and confident in reaching for that. Even if they fail, they've tried.
Right. Yeah, and I'm definitely helping other people is where we can find joy. There's always somebody who maybe needs us, and that feeling of being needed helps us.
Right.
I've always found. So you talked a little bit just now about empathy, and how you have empathy for the people who are there. Is there any, where do you think your empathy comes from, and your ability to have that empathy for the people who participate?
Brianna, I wish I could tell you that answer. I think it's something that's ingrained in me. I don't know. I just know that I sure feel it. It's one of those things that I just was speaking with someone recently about the situation in 2012, and I still got teary-eyed. And it's like, how does that happen? What is in our DNA that allow it? I'm going to do it again. So what happened?
So Lori, just so they know what she's talking about, Lori had an interview last week, and she got a little teary, but I think that's because you do have empathy. You have empathy for everyone around you, and so you feel their pain. So let it roll. We're good.
Well, it definitely, it's an impact for me. And I don't know. I just hope everybody can feel that. It's when I hear a collection of people, or a collection of voices singing the national anthem, I'll just start pouring. It's like, I don't know where that comes from.
Right. You've never been a soldier. You've never fought in a war. So how do you feel their pain too? But yeah, you can have empathy even if you haven't been there. But is there anything in your life that you think that kind of provides that empathy for other people, that that you think is the driving force to feel that empathy? And there may not be. I don't know.
I think that if we slow down enough to listen, that we're all capable of it. Different levels, of course, and we're all meant to have different purposes here. But I think that for me, it's the ability to listen and to process it. So oftentimes when I'm working, if I'm doing my other job, which is styling, or if I'm producing a photo shoot or something like that, and I listen to people and I go around, I often get quiet, and they're like, why are you so quiet? They think that I'm drifting, or I might be in a bad mood, and it's not even close to what I'm feeling. It's just, I'm taking in what other people are talking about, or I might be, standing there in the moment and just feeling the sun and the warmth and stuff. I tend to get quiet when I'm really being contemplative about what's around me and my environment and the people and the conditions that we're in.
So do you think standing and being quiet with yourself, do you think that's one of the ways that somebody could help start finding joy after they've had something bad happen to them?
Yes, I think that being quiet works, and I don't think that you have to be idly quiet. I think that you can busy yourself. I think gardening is a great form of meditation, kayaking. I think most importantly for me, what I associate it with is getting outside.
Mm.
I think that we are far more connected than people give us credit for.
Connected to what?
The environment.
Okay. And can you explain what you mean by that? By like, what do you mean by connected to the environment?
Every living, breathing thing. I mean, you're taking your breath, so is a deer in the woods. So the tree is breathing, the leaves are unfolding, there's changing, the roots are somewhere, there's roots expanding and growing, there's death. There's death all around us every day, and there's life all around us every day.
Right. In both of them. No, I think that's, yeah. I think it's why you and I have connected so well, is that it's the same reason that we have, maybe we're not the same, but there's a lot of things that are similar, and there is connection always. So I
Right.
know exactly what you're talking about. So we've talked about that, art helps people. We've talked about that being still and listening to what's around you.
Mhm.
We've talked about service to others is a good way to get through adversity. Is there anything else that you have watched as either for yourself or other people that helps people find joy again?
Service to others is key.
Okay.
Service to others, because when you are providing a service to others, you're getting out of your own head. You are working for others, whether it's heartfelt or action. I mean, obviously, I think there has to be some sense of heart into if you're serving others, but if you do it with a real purpose, I think that that's important. And I think if we set our own needs aside and look to what others are needing, it's much easier to do that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Have you found any like stumbling blocks either for yourself or for anybody else in your workshop that really kind of holds people back from getting to that next step of finding joy?
Fear.
Fear of what?
Well, it can be fear of all kinds of things. So that's why I've got Siegfried behind me.
Okay, and that was the next question. So you led me right into that. So he is the quintessential elephant in the room. So please introduce Siegfried.
Siegfried spoke to me. I saw him at his store not too long ago, and I was like, this is a good thing. I need him. So I took my truck and went back and picked up Siegfried, and he became a staple in my workshops. And what Siegfried offers is of course, when I have the workshops, people come in and there's the elephant in the room, and they all want to know what that's about. And so I just let them sit there and mull over it for a while. But what Siegfried has is the opportunity. He gives people an opportunity to release their fears. So he holds a little box, and in that box, he takes cards from everybody that have written one of their biggest fears. And it can be anonymous, but they write one of their fears down on this card. And then we take the fear and put it in this nice little box and take Siegfried and set him aside with the box. He'll keep their fears. He'll protect them in the corner for them. But when they give up their fears and surrender that idea that they're fearful of that, it enables them and it allows them to blossom. They kind of they've set that fear aside for the moment. So that it enables them to go into the workshop freer. And then I think when we release our fears, we become more receptive to all the good that's around us. So he's my helper.
So, I mean, I don't know if they've all, like when you have the workshops, have people shared or have you been able to read some of the fears, and what type of fears are on those sheets?
Not being good enough, never being enough for their parents, never cancer, hoping for a good diagnosis, a good prognosis after waiting for their biopsies, not being faithful. I'm amazed at what gets released on these without, any kind of it's a good thing. It's good for people to be able to release it.
It's almost like a confessional.
It is.
It sounds like people are confessing almost.
Yeah.
This is what not only am I afraid of, it's what I'm afraid I am.
Right.
Yeah. I like the, not that I like it, but I think that the one, I'm not good enough it really speaks to me, because I think that that's something that every age, from the time that you were born into probably you die, I think it's something a lot of people struggle with. And I mean, I don't know that there's an answer to it, but have you uncovered anything that helps people with that and that fear?
Well, I think my experience with the Ashes to Art was a pretty good stand to say, listen, I've never run a national campaign before. I didn't know these people.
Mm-hmm.
A little funny side note on this is that, with the age of digital and stuff, and here I am going over from Nebraska to Colorado and trying to pitch this to the fire department that this is what I want to do for them. The fire chief at one point thought that I was a scam. So I got dubbed the Pooter scam for a bit, because he's like, he didn't know who I was. We were only communicating via email. So I finally went in person so that I could verify that, yes, I am human and this is what I want to do. So we laugh about it to this day because we're friends and it's fun. But where was I going with this? You were asking about.
You were fearing about, why is it, that was a massive fear for you of do I know what I'm doing and can I even do this?
Oh yeah. And then,
am I good enough to do this?
Right. And then, when I'm reaching out to artists and they're like, well, who are you and what is this about? And so, fortunately, the artists kicked in and they were all wonderful about it. And I think that was having them collectively behind me that helped me get through it. But one of the most valuable things I learned from that experience, even though I was fearful of whether or not I'd succeed, was whether or not I could do it. And I learned that if you didn't have the answers, even as adults, when I said we don't play enough, we don't give ourselves that recess in those times to grow, but we can still ask and ask for help when you don't have it. If you get into the throes of a project or something you don't know about, you can still ask. A lot of people go to Google now and try to figure it out, but I like to keep the human element.
Right. No, it is. I love the brainstorming part of things, that you kind of throw it out there and you had one idea, somebody else adds something to it, you add something back, and it 1 + 1 somehow equals 50 if you have somebody else involved with you. So yeah, I agree with that. So I think the fear part of it is hard. And so maybe asking for help when you are afraid is probably the biggest thing that we could suggest to people, is that, when you are fearful, when you aren't sure you can do something, then maybe you need help with it and ask.
Yeah. And I think that what happens is the more that you ask and the more that you grow, the more comfortable you become with it. It's like anything else. I mean, if you've never ridden a bike before and you're fearful as a child, but once you start to get the hang of it, it's like, oh, well, this is possible. Mm-hmm. So I think when we set our fear aside, that's when we start to really, really grow into who we were meant to be.
Yeah. And actually the bike analogy kind of is a pretty important one. They, when kids start first riding a bike, they don't just start riding a bike.
Right.
They fall down over and over and over again, and then they ride a bike. And as we get adults, I think sometimes we're afraid of the failure part that gets us to the success, and how important that is, that you're going to fall down a few times in order to get there. And that's normal.
Right. Whenever I went to, we were doing the Ashes to Art, I was able to get on Channel 9 Denver News, and they said, bring the artwork down and we'll do a little news piece. And so I'm like, great, let's go. Well, at that point I had 3 pieces of artwork. That was it. So I'm like, I was trembling. I was like, I had never done live TV, and I was, but it ended up working out great, because soon after then all the pieces started rolling in. And it was good. But, when you push artists, they really had a short window. So for me to go on the news a week in advance of when the artwork was due was risky.
Yeah, that is. All right. So we only have a couple more minutes left, which I'm always amazed every time I do these, how quickly they go. But I do also want to talk about your book.
Okay.
The book, My Embrace, which I loved. I think that it's just,
Yeah,
it's full of joy is why. It's full of reality and real life, but also joy mixed in. And so I just I don't know if there's anything in particular that you would like to talk about, like what prompted you to write the book and how does it feel to have it out there?
It feels really good to have it out there. Although the night that I hit send and click to make it all happen on the computer, I have to say I had that fear step in, like, oh, am I doing this right? But I've learned that that's all part of it. We just have to put it aside, put it in that little box, and keep pushing forward. So there's a little saying I put on the back of it that's my words. It says, "Today's a good day to list all of your accomplishments, big and small. After all, you took baby steps, then ran and leaped, and oh yes, you took flight."
Ooh, yeah.
Sums it up, you know?
That's it. Exactly. Baby steps. You'll get there. But you
Yeah.
have to step forward or you're never going to get there.
Right.
Yeah, that's perfect. And it really does wrap up very well what all the different items in that book, kind of, it's not all about, like, throughout your whole book, it's not just about roses and, everything's perfect. These are the real realities of life, but, positivity and stepping forward will eventually get through things.
I agree. I think a lot of it too became more relevant with COVID, because I tend to look at the people around me and how they've served us and the environment, and it encompasses all of that. So if I can raise awareness in people a little bit, that'll be perfect.
That's really great. So, I know people would probably want to, know how to reach you, both either for the workshops, which eventually we are going to just, we're going to be doing a live workshop with Lori at Retreat and Learn. So keep an eye on retreatandlearn.com. We are going to be doing, I'm trying to put together a grief workshop that Lori would be a part of. And I think it would be really nice for everybody there. But in the meantime, Lori, how can people reach you?
LoriJoseph.com. There's a place you can email me. The book's available on Amazon, but you can also go right to my site at LoriJoseph.com.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I appreciate all of those things. Anything you want to leave everybody with in terms of a message that you want to make sure that people know?
Don't ever give up. Just keep going and always ask for help when you need it.
That's perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much, Lori. I appreciate you being here with us and sharing your positive nature. It's great.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.